Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to Canadian Sober, eh? I'm your host and resident alcoholic, Dougie Fresh. So glad you're with me tonight and with my guest. Zoom can take you wondrous places. And over the last, few years, probably about 4.5 years, I've gone to some amazing meetings. I've met some amazing people. And there's a lot of people out there with some really amazing stories. And I stumbled upon a group one night and met a few gentlemen. There's about 6 to 8 of us that meet every Wednesday night. And my next guest tonight is one of those gentlemen. And I would love the world to meet Josh. How you doing today, Josh?
Very good. How you doing?
I'm doing great, brother. Thanks for being on the show. Can you tell the world, what you've been up to for the last, 4.5 years, or what you've been up to in your sobriety? Just share a little bit about your experience, strength, and hope for the people at home.
Sounds good. I can do that. And thank you for the opportunity to be of service. Well, we met about 4.5 years ago, and it's been a blessing to have you part of the journey. My journey actually started about 7.5 years ago, and a little bit of a backstory real quick. I should have known that I was an alcoholic long before I did. But knowing the signs and everything, looking back now, I can see it, but I didn't see it until I came into recovery. The first thing I remember kind of proving that is I've always been an adrenaline junkie, and I think that was my fix when I was a kid. I'd always push things to get that rush. And then one year, I think I was about 7 years old. I had strep throat really bad, and my glands were swollen. I looked kind of like a king cobra. And I was up visiting my grandparents, and my grandfather said, "I've got this old Amish remedy. He's like, it fixes everything." So it was whiskey, honey, and lemon juice. So he pretty much gave me a hot toddy. I didn't know that back then. And he's like, "Take a shot of this and go to bed." I'm like, "Okay." And I took a shot of that. And for the first time in my life, my head was silent. So I instantly had an effect off my first drink. And I liked it so much that I waited for everybody else to go to bed. And then I went back and took a few more nips off the bottle. The next morning I got caught because I didn't put it back in the right spot. My very first drink, I had the effect and I had the consequences right off rip. But that never stopped me. We'll fast forward a few more years because I was about 11, and a buddy of mine, we were hanging out at his house, and his dad and their friends were in the house partying. So we went in and snuck a few beers, and once again, I got that feeling. Everything was quiet, calm, and it was good. So his dad liked to party quite a bit. So I wound up spending more and more time over there because their fridge always had beer in it. My parents weren't drinkers. And we would go in and sneak some and come out. And then I think I was 12 or 13 and I got caught stealing the beer. And I'm thinking, oh crap, here it goes. I just got caught. And his dad's like, "I thought I was going through a lot here lately." He's like, "If you guys want some, just give me the money. I'll buy it for you." So I'm like, sweet. So I'm running around mowing yards to get beer money, at like 13 years old. And we move forward a little bit more, but back then I could drink like one weekend and then a month or two later do it again. So it wasn't like steady, but every time I drank, I had to drink more, and more. I've always been, you drink until you pass out. I've never had that off switch that most people have. And then, we did that for a few months, and I thought it was pretty cool because my buddies would be passed out in the garage, and I'd be in the house drinking with the adults. I thought that was really cool because I could keep up with the adults, and so those are all signs that I should have known back then. And then I was 15 or 16 years old, and another sign that I should have seen that I was an alcoholic was I blew out my knee in football, and I was laid up for about 6 months, and that was my first taste of the irritable and restless and discontentedness that we get when we don't drink. But I found if I take my painkillers and muscle relaxers wrong, the doctor's like, you take them 2 hours apart and blah, blah, blah. You take them together, they make you feel pretty good, So when I couldn't get the alcohol, I dabbled with other things. But alcohol's always been my DOC. Sorry. So I had those signs as I was younger, and then as I grew up into adulthood, the drinking became more and more frequent, and I went from like doing it every weekend to I do it Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday, and then Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then it slowly kept progressing. And, and it was always that, I drink way more than I should, cause I had this spot where I felt really good, like where I was like, where I fit in and all that. And, sometimes I'd hit the mark, and I'd have that feeling for a few minutes, and then other times I'd blow right past it. And then I got 2 failed marriages during this time, and I think alcohol has a lot to do with it because I wasn't the husband I should have been. And so that's I guess one of the things that happens, when you drink like that. And I think it was shortly after the second marriage, I started having the blackouts. And we've invented this game called truck fishing. That's when you wake up the next morning and try to figure out where you're at and then where your truck's at. Because it wasn't uncommon for me to start. I live in a rural community, so I'd go into town, start out at a bar, my truck wind up in one city and I wind up in another. So then that was a game that we all used to play. And then I got married to my third wife, which she should have been the one I married to begin with. But I had a drinking issue, so it took me 20 years to convince her to marry me. We got married during one of my dry periods, and then shortly after we got together, I started drinking again, and it got bad enough to where she came to me and said, "Hey, you got a problem. You need to get help." And I didn't think I was an alcoholic yet, so I said, "No, I can do this on my own." And I white knuckled it for a year. So, I was dry, but I was far from sober. My attitude and everything, I was a dry drunk. And I was a captain on the fire department at this time. And like I said, it had been about a year. We went through 2 fatalities in a row. and I couldn't shake them. One of them was my daughter's friend, and I couldn't shake it. And I don't even remember leaving the firehouse. I started hitting the alcohol as soon as I could, and I thought it was just about 2 weeks that I don't remember. And it is talking to my wife now. It's about 3 years or 3 months that I don't remember. So I went in another blackout, and when I came out of that, she's like, "You need help." She's like, "You need to go to AA or something, but you need help." And she's like, "This is what me and the kids are doing. If you want to join us, you need to get help." I usually don't do very good with ultimatums, but I've loved this woman since I was 5. So I stepped into the rooms of AA, and my first few meetings, probably the first month's worth, I thought I was in an intervention, because like every other share, I was hearing bits of my story. So I'm like, "How do you know me? Did my wife put you up to this?" I was having those kind of thoughts, because I was resonating with the people in there. And so I struggled with that for a couple months, and then finally, I made the decision to become a friend of Bill, and work the program. And things changed once I finally changed my last name and joined the family. I'm Josh, I'm alcoholic. So I was able to work the steps the way they're meant to be, and got into recovery. And and it's a beautiful thing, because it brings me into things like this, where I can share experience, strength, and hope with people. Get into random conversations in the parking lot because of the shirts that I wear, that say something like "Faith over fear," or "I'm a friend of Bill," and it brings up random conversations, which I love, because I like to recover out loud, and that's how I kind of spread the word and move on. So I really appreciate the opportunity for you to bring me on, and and I guess I should touch on Zoom, because that's real important too, in the recovery community, and that's how we got to meet. When COVID happened, we had to tweak our programs to keep moving forward. And now I can travel the world and sit right down here in my basement. So that's an amazing thing too. The people that you get to meet and stuff as you're going through this. So I think that's about all I got without getting too carried away.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you coming on today to share with the folks at home, a little bit about yourself. You mentioned we met a little over 4 years ago, and I remember that. It's you never know, because I go to a lot of Zoom meetings. You never know who like that you associate with, who's going to stick around and who's going to kind of be there. And I can honestly say our Wednesday night fellowship that we have going on, that's the longest I've ever have known a group of men that that have just been consistent and constantly attending. And I say to my wife all the time, I've learned more, honestly, besides my sponsor. I've learned more on Wednesday nights than I ever have in any other Zoom meeting that I've gone to. And I think it's just the fact that we're comfortable today with each other, and we can express our feelings and express our thoughts, and don't feel judgment, and just have those real honest shares. And then everybody kind of like rallies around that one person, or those couple people that are struggling, say, that night or that week or something like that. And that's what we kind of do. We share about how our week was, because we see each other weekly. I'm blessed. I really am blessed to know you today. And you've been a big inspiration and a big part of my sobriety. So I want to thank you for sharing your story again. on Canadian Sober A today, and I'm going to ask you a few questions if that's all right.
Fire away.
All right. You mentioned something early in your share, and I'd kind of like just maybe your thought on it. Your drinking and everything kind of started really young. You have kids. Do you ever worry about that?
I do. And unfortunately, a couple of them are wired just like me. So it is a scare. I hope they don't have it the way I did. Um, but it's also very tough too to remember that I've got my own higher power and they got theirs and they need to do their journey. Because for years I tried to steer them away from that path, and all I was doing was killing my relationship with my kids.
Yeah, it's kind of got to be tough a little bit, I think. I don't have kids personally, so I can't really touch too much. But when I think about your situation and what you shared with us tonight, and what your journey brought you, there's kind of like that line. I can just imagine that you have, imaginary drawn in your head, and do you cross it, or do you kind of like let them be, right?
Yeah, it would be a lot easier if the kids came with an owner's manual, so you knew how to do it. Because I got 5 kids and every one of them's different. So it's very tough because you might be towing a line with one, but that's nowhere close to what you need to be with the one over here. So it's tough parenting and sobriety.
I think you brought up a really good point. After this, maybe you, myself, and Deanne can all talk about maybe bringing out an owner's manual for children, and then we could sell them for like a lot of money and kind of make some profit off that.
Yeah, like parenting for dummies.
Something, I just saw a thing on the news this morning before I was getting ready for work, and they said that this year they expect the 0% business of selling 0% alcohol is they're expecting it to be a $45 billion industry in the next year or two. What are your thoughts on the whole 0% stuff?
So you're talking about like mocktails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't agree with it. Non-alcoholic drinks are for non-alcoholics.
I like that.
I think if me personally, if I start dabbling and stuff like that, I'm going to want the stronger stuff. So, I don't think it's a good idea personally. It might work for some, but I'm not going to chance it.
Yeah, I've never met an alcoholic that said they've been drinking 0% alcohol for years and they're fine. I've always met that person that drank 0% alcohol who had an issue and then relapsed or slipped because of 0%. So what kind of message do you think these companies are sending to people like you and I and other people out there who have drinking issues?
I don't, my inner gremlin wants to go with that's personal attack, but I don't know if it quite is. Because I've always been the black sheep. And now that I'm in recovery, I'm the black sheep again because you see it on TV all the time how they're promoting alcohol and other things. And I'm in that minority group now where it's not for me. So I just don't rush out to the store and buy the stuff. I've seen the damage, but for some people, they can have a drink and be fine, but that's not me. So I I think they're trying to just reach maybe a younger crowd. I don't know. But
Mm. Yeah, I don't know. You mentioned something early in your share, and I can sympathize with it because I was the same way. Once I had that finger injury at a job, and I took a Tylenol 3 for the first time, along with drinking a beer, it was like I went on a different, planet, and it was something totally different. You talked about the pill situation. Can you dive a little deeper into that for us?
uh, I think it was just a convenience thing. Like I said, because I couldn't get what I originally wanted. Um, but yeah, I'm the way I'm wired. If I couldn't get something to alter my mind, and I knew that moss outside on that rock would alter my mind, I'd go out and lick that moss. Just to get that mindset to escape my reality.
Right. So would you say, like, would it be safe for you to say that most alcoholics are dual addicted or multi addicted?
I That's hard to say. I've heard people that are a lot of shares where people are dual addicted, and some people just stuck with alcohol. Um, the number I couldn't tell you, but I know there's quite a few of us that are dual addicted.
Yeah. I know in the program of recovery that we attend, it's frowned upon kind of in some meetings to talk about, say, other drugs or something like that. When alcohol is considered a drug, really, what are your thoughts about that?
I don't think we should shame anybody on it. Uh, One of our founding fathers was dual addicted. Um, but I think the scare is if we, I don't know. I don't see the difference.
Yeah.
An addiction is an addiction, and some are healthier than others. But
Yeah.
we all have them.
Yeah, I agree. Something, that, my lovely producer, Deanne, would like to ask, and I think it's an important question as well, is, you said you married the love of your life, and I can just imagine that, she's just as a supporting person in your recovery as, say, my wife. Tell me what it's like, with her today, and how much of a support she's been to you.
Uh, we we've got a way better marriage now than what we had. Uh, my alcoholism put in a lot of wrenches and stuff that we've had to work through or we're working on. I'm very fortunate that about 3 years in, my wife went to our sister program, Al-Anon, and she's been a huge support. Uh, to be honest, I don't think I could have done it without her.
Mm.
Um, even through the hard times, because I used my family as a driving force. Obviously I had to get sober for myself, but knowing what I'm about to lose really helped me move forward. And like I said, she's been a blessing through the whole thing. And she's not afraid to call me out when my mind's acting funny or something, which is nice because you guys see that long before I do. So if I'm speaking off or acting funny, she will. She'll come.
She's like, get to a meeting.
Right. Well, she'll be like, you doing okay? Everything okay? Because not all of it's drugs or drinking. I've got this bad problem. If I can't figure something out, it runs in my mind, and that takes me away from the family just as much as as my drinking did. You know, and we seen a meme one time where it's a husband and wife sitting, laying side by side in bed, and going through her mind, it's he doesn't love me, there's somebody else, he's cheating, and blah blah blah. You know, going through the woman's mind, and then in the man's little bubble, it says, "Did I check the battery?" So we have a little inside joke going. You know, sometimes if I know I'm trying to figure something out, and she's asking me if I'm okay, I just look at her and say, "Yeah, the motorcycle's not running."
Yeah. You know, you brought up a really good point. It's great to hear that about your wife. You know, I absolutely love hearing that. You brought up something just there that I'd like you to touch on really quick, and it's you know, when we get in here, well, at least for me, I got in here and I was told, you know, Doug, alcohol isn't your problem. You know, like you're the problem. You know, explain to maybe the people at home really quick, you know, what kind of they mean by that.
The alcohol is a symptom. It's what I use to medicate the stuff that I had deep down inside. You know, like I hit on before, it takes me out of my reality, so I don't have to deal with those voices in my head and the shame and guilt that I have for over drinking. You know, but I need another drink to overcome that. You know, there's a lot of internal stuff that goes on, and the bottle is just a symptom of all that stuff.
Yeah. It was really difficult for me to learn that that whole situation, that, you know, like, Doug, you got to start working on yourself. You know, if you don't work on yourself, then you know, then you're going to have some issues, you're going to have some problems. And boy, did I learn really quick that you know, maybe alcohol really wasn't, you know, my problem. Not saying that I'm going to go back out and drink or do that stuff again, but I have addictive personality, and I really had to, you know, learn who Doug was at the end of the day, you know. You know, I want to thank you, Josh, for coming on the show today, coming on Canadian Sober and sharing with the people today. I love you like a brother. You know, we've known each other for a little while now. We'll continue to know each other, and one day I'm going to get out there to Ohio, and I'm going to knock on your door, and you're not going to realize that it's me, and and we'll just have a good time. And you know, thank you so much for being a part of this today.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. That was Canadian Sober. That was our buddy Josh. Join us next week for another amazing episode of Canadian Sober. Peace and love wherever you are. See you next week.